South, the series, is an audiobook production. It contains subject material not suited for a younger audience. Listener discretion is advised. South, the Pinewood High School incident, is the telling of an unfortunate soul, a young girl lost to the whims of society. We follow the story of Cassidy Learman, a Pinewood High School student, as she finds herself stumbling down a dark and dangerous path. In Allura Shores, corporations control your every thought. It is a place where governments decide where you live and who you talk to, where the best parts of humanity are stripped away, turning the innocent into the monsters we fear the most. The path of darkness is broad and inviting. A banquet of thieves ready to take all you have. Hold true to your beliefs. If you are not careful, someone will replace them with their own. Chapter 12 Recap. In the previous chapter, Cassidy doesn't find what she was after in the seance and leaves Heather and Penelope in a fit of rage. While wandering through the school, she finds herself thinking on the past and begins to lash out against the school. Her outburst leads her to the band hall, where she is met by none other than the janitor woman from before, whose name is Jerry. Jerry contracts her through a little blackmail to sneak into the principal's office in an attempt to steal some sensitive files. Cassidy is successful in discovering a few secrets that the principal had been keeping, primarily that Lydia is not really a teacher at all, rather a mouthpiece for Southern cuts. When she thinks herself to be safe, Jerry alarms her with the news that a security guard has returned to the school and he is headed straight for her. Cassidy does her best to escape the situation, but is unfortunate, the door to the administration office being opened just as she reaches the light. With this developing situation looking grim, let's get back into the mess and find out if Cassidy will escape in one piece. Hello? The security guard's voice was heavily masculine. Someone in here? Cassidy held her hand to her mouth as to not give her position away with her panicked mouth breathing. The officer made his way further into the office and turned the light on. With each footfall of the man, she inched from around the desk she was hiding behind to avoid his ire. He was slow to approach the area she was near, but she assumed that he was no slouch. The shadow he gave off was thin and had muscular definition. There was a swing gate that led to the receptionist area she was trying to remain hidden in, and doing her best to avoid being visible, inched away from it as he approached. With a light hand, the guard moved the gate out of the way and looked around the room to spot whatever it was he was looking for. Cassidy had managed to disappear around to the opposite side of the desk and waited for him to make a move. The unfortunate part about the current situation was that she was positioned in a way as to not be able to leave, the entrance to the office area being a heavier door that would give her position away instantly. It seemed as though there was no avoiding it. She was going to be found out. As she pondered the ramifications of her actions, the security guard furthered his approach to where she had snuck away to. She couldn't take the beating of her heart anymore, the constant rush of blood and adrenaline causing her chest to hurt. Her focus was centered on his footsteps alone. As with each step he took, she danced around the space in a kind of mad waltz. When it had seemed as though she was going to avoid his attention, however, her shoulder decided to offend her as she accidentally bumped into the desk. She stopped breathing and closed her eyes. "Hey!" The guard's attention was instantly upon her. "Who's there?" That was it. Her attempt at espionage was at an end. The only thing she could possibly do was stand and present herself as harmless as possible. She was sure that he wasn't armed. Officers had to announce that or something, she assumed. Maybe she could talk her way out of it, like she did with Jerry. That didn't seem possible when she really considered it. Jerry was a special case after all. No, she didn't have any other outs when it came to the encounter. She needed to get in front of the situation as soon as possible. "Hey, can you let me in a room?" Jerry's voice echoed from the opposite side of the door, following a series of loud knocks. "Christ, lady, you scared me," the officer muttered loudly. "Hold on." Cassidy danced around him again as he made his way to the door, doing her best to keep the swinging door from making any noise. When he was at the office door, she waited for Jerry to lead the man away. Their conversation, containing mundane blame shifting and something about lacking proper supplies. It didn't take long for Jerry to get the officer laughing and flirting with her before she led him away far into the school. Cassidy took the opportunity to be free of the office space and set her intentions on leaving the school altogether, a successful mission that, she hoped, was leading her closer to Amber. The air outside the school was chilled and inviting, a far cry from the musty, recirculated atmosphere she was freed from. It was completely dark out, with the exception of the bright orange streetlights that illuminated the street that led away from the school to the main road. She had made the trip from the school many times on foot, and it had seemed as though that night wouldn't be any different. But she felt exhausted. She knew that it was from the trippy seance and the brief spy game, and before her was at least an 11-mile walk. Given her best estimate, It was going to take her about an hour and a half to trek, slower due to her lack of stamina. She began her journey and made it away from the school and to the end of the side road before the fatigue began. She wanted to stop and wait at the stop sign a moment before continuing, but she pushed past it and kept walking. Down the side road towards the main road, Cassidy put one foot in front of the other and made it to the intersection of the main road before giving the rest of the journey a 1,000-yard stare. Her comments about sleeping in the woods that Gabriella had planted a while ago kept playing in her head as she slugged forward towards the house. While trying to pace herself, she decided that the walk wasn't too bad after all. At least she didn't have to carry her book bag. Cassidy let her mind take her wherever it wanted as she continued down her path. The streetlights casting orange and white spots on the ground that she considered checkpoints. She thought on how her life was going so far and how angry she felt at being useless. She had everything she needed to protect Amber and the Coven and Jessica, but it was taken from her. No, she had given it up the moment she killed Goldilocks. Nothing was the same after that. Her relationships were crumbling apart, and there seemed to be nothing she could do to stop the decay. She was approaching one of the landmarks that served as a good rest spot, an aged bridge that was around long since she was alive. It crossed a shallow swamp that smelled quite earthy on most nights. The stench was so familiar to her and the other residents that it was barely noticeable, the only time any of them pointed it out being whenever out-of-towners paid them visits. She crossed it halfway before deciding to sit on the ground to catch her breath. As she was prepared to resume her travels, however, her phone rang. Jerry? Cassidy was surprised to be remembered after the woman's display with the security officer. Yeah, just wanted to thank you for helping me with the info. It sounded like she was driving. Where did you run off to anyway? I'm heading home. I'm crossing the swamp now. When she said that, she thought back to when her and Jessica were riding to the farm, their attention set on rock music and each other's terrible singing. She felt even the more foolish after that, how she completely destroyed her relationship with everyone. She wondered if Jessica would ever forgive her for the trespass. Probably not, but she could dream of it. She felt like Lydia was right in forcing Jessica away, but remembering how she was used to do it was embarrassing to say the least. Hey, you there? Jerry brought her focus back. Yeah, I'm walking home. Her attention was partially on a dead animal she was walking past. I'm almost to the gas station. Okay, I'm heading that way anyway, Jerry suggested. I'll give you a ride. Do me a favor and buy me a soda. We'll count it as your fare. It didn't take long after reaching the store that Cassidy was watching Jerry pull up, a dark blue convertible with the top raised due to the early autumn chill. When Jerry had secured a parking spot and stopped her car, Cassidy, with the bag of items she was told to purchase, opened the passenger side door and adjusted to the warm interior. The black leather interior was a stark relief from the cold night she was wandering in previously. After handing Jerry her requested items, she waited for the janitor to sip from the drink before daring to ask what was plaguing her mind since the incident with the security guard. What happened to you and that guard? She checked to see if her tone was appropriate for the Inquisition. You don't need to know. Jerry winked at Cassidy, which made her numb cheeks feel the slight tinge of a blush. I'm joking, kid. I had him open some more offices for me, and we split when you were out. She gave a barely noticeable smile to Jerry's claim, but she felt that it wasn't enough to please the woman. It was in the way that she maneuvered through the conversations they had that made her not feel as comfortable with her. She was an adult, but she talked with Cassidy as if they were equals, something that she didn't get a lot of from the other women in her life. She wanted to let her guard down, but adults always wanted something from her. They always wanted to use her. After taking another couple of swigs from the soft drink, Jerry put it in the nearby cup holder and began to drive away from the convenience store. Before Cassidy could think to ask her anything further, the woman reached for her sound system and turned the volume up. The interior of the car being blessed by music she was very familiar with. The orchestral sounds that took her away from her miserable life. It was enough for her to take back what she was previously thinking, while closing her eyes and enjoying the ride for a change. I didn't think there was someone your age that liked this music. Jerry relaxed in her seat. Looks like we're going to get along just fine. They continued through the wood-lined streets for a bit before crossing yet another bridge. The track that thrusted Cassidy into the theater of her mind began to fade, and, as if to remind her, the memory of the seance returned to her. She opened her eyes and looked out of the window into the dark before bringing it up to Jerry. The woman had seemed to not have a care in the world, and she didn't want to ruin the good vibes the woman ushered in, but she needed to tell someone, anyone, about what bothered her. We tried to conduct a seance in the locker rooms. Her awkward statement helped Jerry to turn the music down. Oh? Jerry helped to push Cassidy's embarrassment. I guess that's what witches do. Was it successful? I saw my dad again. The thought of him sending her away again made her fold her arms. He died recently, and I wanted to see him, but I was also looking for something else. What were you looking for? My guardian. Cassidy's hesitation caused Jerry to give her a glance. I don't know what to make of any of this witch stuff anymore. I tried to play along and do what I was told. I said the words and drew the patterns. I killed an animal and attacked people. But I'm still the same person I was before. I'm still weak. The car remained silent for a bit as they rode through more wooded streets. By this time, Jerry had turned the music she was listening to down, but it was loud enough still for Cassidy to enjoy. She took her attention off the passing trees to look at Jerry again, and, for the first time, saw a familiar resemblance to someone she knew, but she didn't want to assume anyone to belong to Brittany's family. "You told me that you'd tell me." Cassidy tried to hurry before the next song played. "Why you needed the stuff off the laptop." "What?" Jerry seemed to be lost in another world. "Oh, right. Your school is all kinds of jacked up. It's never a good idea for businesses to get their hands on institutions that should be standardized by the government. When it happens, though, people want transparency and honest reports. That's why I wanted it, because the people want to know what's up." Cassidy nodded along, although she didn't quite get it. From what she was under the impression of, many people knew about the acquisition and integration of Southern Cuts into the school system. Everything was televised, and many articles and investigations were written and conducted since. Everything had seemed to be transparent as possible, yet she felt that Jerry was right somehow. Like with her and Amber's blackout and the coven's existence, she knew that there was more to it than what she was being shown. When she thought on that, she remembered what Brittany had said to her in the bathroom and at Jessica's house, and lowered her gaze. "You thought that they would tell you everything?" Jerry read her mind. "That's not how this game is played. Corporate interest is not your interest, and they know how to play your perceptions like a fiddle. Take the televised advertisements lining the halls of the school, for instance. Why would a student need so many reminders to check out a skincare regimen? Why keep showing the teachers and other staff homemade meal kits and quality of life items? It's all to drive traffic to what they want you to buy." "But that's to be expected," Cassidy chimed in as they reached the main road that led to her house. "Why would that matter if all they are getting out of the transaction is free advertising? If anything, it would seem as though they would be missing out on better opportunities elsewhere." "Smart kid." Jerry smirked. "Yeah, that would be the case if that was it. If the school was only providing the company with free ad space, there would be no other incentive, and the project would inevitably fail. Do you remember the last few files I had you sending me? What type of information was on those files?" Cassidy nodded, and as she finished doing so, she gasped. Her mind shot back to her and Amber's conversation in Cadmart when she was detailing her findings on the isotope. She remembered her conversations with Lydia and the coven about the spirit she was in contact with and how they were using her throughout the process. She found herself thinking about the random hum that shot throughout the school at random times, and the students that were also found to be bleeding and blacking out from it. The company was gathering information on the entire school and using that information, along with random tests, to conduct some form of experiment. "Looks like you finally figured it out." Jerry reached for her drink and finished it before continuing. "There are no innocents when it comes to the struggle for power. You either take it from others, or others will take it from you." It didn't take long before they were nearing her street, and Cassidy began to feel a strong sense of dread. The world that she thought she knew was turning upside down, and she had no way to prevent herself from falling into the sky. She had no allies she could trust anymore. The coven was foreign to her now. Her mother and Arthur probably hated her for the way she was acting, And even though she was with Jerry, they had only just met. Everything she was, everything that she was made to believe up to that point by the many people that entered her life, had seemed to be a lie. As they turned the corner and pulled up to her house, Cassidy noticed that Martha's car was in the driveway. The older station wagon was a relic compared to Jerry's car, and the paint on it was reflective of the many years it struggled alongside the aged woman of God. She inspected the bumper stickers as they pulled into the driveway and was comforted by her expectations of the woman's choice in religious stickers being met. She thought on how she had left the home and sighed when Jerry stopped the car, a rush of shame making her not want to get out. "You cool, kid?" Jerry's lack of awareness reminded her of Tara. "Listen, you did good work for me tonight, and, well, thanks. I know it's scary to find out that you've been manipulated for so long, but that's how things work, you know." Cassidy wanted to frown, but she knew Jerry was telling the truth. She had suspected so much during the time since her father had died, and there had seemed to be no other explanation for the way she had been acting as of late. She was out of control. The grounding she was fighting so hard for was out of her reach, and it infuriated her to no end. Everything that she was told before the coven by her mother had also seemed to be a lie, that God was watching over her and that everything would be fine as long as she held true to the word. She was the rope that the ideologies on both ends of the spectrum were trying to yank to their side. Only her threads were frail, and she was about to snap. "What's on your mind, Munchkin?" Jerry teased. "What would you do?" Cassidy probed. "I don't know which way to turn now. The coven has been manipulating me. The school has been manipulating me." She began to tear up. The thought of her going through what she had for so long pierced her heart and twisted her emotions. Jerry was a new player in her drama, but she didn't suspect the woman of any ill intentions. What would be the point, she thought, of someone misusing her now? She had nothing left. The power she sought in the coven and the demon was what she thought gave her purpose. There wasn't anything or anyone she felt she could lean on in that moment other than who was with her. Someone with a different opinion she felt wouldn't hurt at this point. Just another voice in the sea of users and abusers. "I would find out all I can about who's been messing with me before checking them." Jerry gave what Cassidy accepted as an honest response. "Where would you start?" she asked while looking out of the car window at her front yard. Jerry didn't answer at first, the woman choosing to lean back in her chair and fold her arms before releasing a deep sigh. She closed her eyes and seemed to ponder what Cassidy had asked her before slowly opening them to view the roof of the car. She took another moment before allowing her head to roll softly towards Cassidy and kept an inquisitive gaze on her for a moment before giving her an answer. "Where did you start?" Cassidy thought back to her life with her family before the accident, to a time when they were the ideal family unit. Arthur had started a new position with the stormwater department, and her father was telling her mother about his plans to expand the zoning for low-income housing. Her mother was working in the church as an usher while trying her best to teach her about the inner workings of the church. It was a different time for sure, a time that Cassidy was sure she forgot. "I was with my family," she began. "Mom and Dad were doing their best to keep me and Arthur on a straight path. Even with my dad working on a big project with the city, and my mom working hard in the church, we were together and strong. Your teacher mentioned that you tried to off yourself." Jerry didn't have a filter. "Why was that?" "I began to feel empty." Cassidy was surprised that she didn't feel upset anymore about sharing. "I was bullied by the same people I trusted, and I felt as though I had no power to change my situation." Jerry turned her head back to face the station wagon in front of them and closed her eyes again. Cassidy looked at her and wondered why she was being probed by her on something that didn't seem to matter anymore. A thought suddenly presented itself in that moment, and Cassidy nearly gasped at the next revelation. She was following the same patterns, bullying herself this time instead of others doing it for her. She was being hard on herself for the sake of other people, for Amber, and it was causing her to feel inadequate. "That little brain of yours is firing away, huh?" Jerry smirked and made Cassidy feel like hitting her for some reason. "Let's take a look at what you can do right now. You can leave this car, go inside, and forget about all of this. Go back to class and let it all work itself out. You can keep conducting seances or whatever. Maybe you'll get touched or something. You can give up and kill yourself now, tonight, when your mom goes to sleep. Can you think of any other path you want to take to get what you want?" She didn't see any other path. Cassidy was sure that she had thought of everything, but what did she know? She was a teenager in high school with little experience in life, a person that was exposed to trauma that no one should be witness to. Everything she was exhumed victimhood, but she wanted to be normal. No, she wanted to fight. To be normal was the prize she sought when the fighting would end. Was there an end for her fight, though? When she rescued Amber, would they be able to return to the normal she thought she wanted? "You've been a part of this for a few months." Jerry sat herself up and focused all of her attention on Cassidy. "You woke up to find yourself in the middle of a battle that's forcing you to pick a side. You've been a part of two worlds. The church has tried to raise you to be a soldier, to fight against the ills of the world. The witches have been raising you to take the power you want from the influences around you. Now that you know some of the truth, are you going to return to the witches? To the church? Or maybe what?" Cassidy was sure that Jerry had an alternative. "Like I said," Jerry looked in her direction again, "I need help with gathering information for clients. Information that, coincidentally, you need in order to find the truth. You've been looking for the power to achieve your goals, but everywhere you've been turning had led to misery and abandonment. You're alone, right?" Cassidy nodded. "You want power, right?" She nodded again. I can give you both. Jerry was confident. It's all in the information, Cassidy. Did your witch mother really give you the power that you wanted through your chants? Did God really say that you could conquer your troubles in life by only following Him? Information can set you apart from anyone looking to manipulate or control you, but you have to know how to use information, not only for its own sake, but as a weapon. I can help you learn how to do that if you'll do some work for me. Jerry, something that was at the back of her mind, had finally reached the front. How do you know where I live? Cassidy took a longer look at the woman, and a sudden shock froze her to the core. Jerry must have seen it before she did, because as the last revelation hit her, the woman's mature face cracked at the lips with a toothy smile. Cassidy's heart raced as she considered what to do, but the emotions that flooded her system were too much at one time, and she remained still. She felt completely helpless. The woman before her was holding all the cards to her life, and she didn't even know her real name. There was something else, however, that stood out to her in the woman's eyes. The familiar slant that she knew for sure she remembered. You know her, don't you? Cassidy managed to stammer out. She looks and talks like you. She brought all this stuff up before, but I didn't listen then. You were using her to watch me, push me to see what I would do. You used her to infiltrate the coven, to push me over the edge. You're not just a janitor, are you? I am a janitor. Jerry reduced her smile to a light grin. It just so happens that I'm something else, too. I'll tell you the truth. Yes, I've been spying on you for a while. Yes, I was using my sister to keep you on edge, but not to hurt you. I've been following your story for a while, Cassidy Learman. Well, that's not true. I've been following your dad's story before you. Cassidy's breathing didn't slow as she listened to Jerry. She could hear her heart pumping in her ears as she listened to the interloper speak plainly to her, as if the bombshell that was released didn't occur. She was frozen in her anger and fear, unable to move due to her lack of awareness. Should she make a scene and try to get the woman arrested? She could make a run for the house and try explaining what was happening to her mother and Martha. No, there was nothing that she could do in that moment except listen to the devil speak. So what do you say, Cass? Jerry was waiting for confirmation. I want information to get money, and you want it to save your friend from her fate. Will you leave us alone after that? Cassidy was out of her element. When I save her and we leave this hell, will you let us live in peace? Of course not. Jerry couldn't hold back her laughter. But you won't see me anymore after this. Deal? Wow, Cassidy has traded one group for another in the past. Will this next connection spell trouble for her like the witches? Or will she find what she's after with Jerry? Thanks everyone for listening to South, the Pinewood High School incident. I would like to give a special thanks to Ministry in Christ Church for everything God has led you to accomplish over 16 years of ministry. You can find us on Facebook by searching Ministry in Christ Church. I would like to give a big thanks to Jon at Tale of the Manticore for the inspiration to keep going and for keeping me entertained while working. Listen to the Tale of the Manticore podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember to leave a comment about anything you would like to talk about on Podbean, Google Podcasts, or X at The Writer Wesley. I check my comments regularly, so feel free to type away. If you would like for me to announce what you are currently working on, feel free to message me on X as well. I am looking for anyone with a passion for what they do so that I can represent you and your efforts. With that said, sit tight and get ready for the next chapter. But remember, your mind is the battlefield. Be careful to which side you give aid. See you next time.